new Washington State records managers, we wanted to take a minute to really get this information out to you before it's too late. So right now, we have been notified that the Washington State Archives is in the process of updating the core. If you remember, the last time this happened was in October of 2024, and it was heavy and it caused a lot of hurt. And I know that a lot of people felt like they weren't notified in time, so they weren't able to give the proper input that they could give. The archives does allow for you to, I think they give like a 30-day commenting period, something like that. And so it's currently open, but it closes on March 20th. That's why we wanted to just make sure we get this out to you now and kind of break it down. So overall, I'm actually really excited about the changes. There's only one that I don't love, but overall, I'm pretty excited about it, right? I mean, like, it's gonna make our lives easier for sure.
Yeah.
And
make your lives easier.
And your lives too. At least I think. But
it'll make it easy for us.
It'll make it easy for us, so we're good. Exactly. So, okay, so let's just jump in. Basically, what we did is we just took the time to go through their summary of changes, which is in the link that is in this post. You'll see the draft schedule and the summary of changes. So we went through it all and kind of just picked out the important stuff. There's a lot of stuff that they're updating where they're just updating like the title or the DAN number, like the revision number. Some of them like take out references to obsolete RCWs, you know, things like that. So we really just kind of weeded through to the big hitters.
Yes.
Okay. So which one should we start with? Should we start with, oh, yes. Should we start with the new?
Yes.
Okay.
The legislation, ordinances, and resolutions.
Yeah, okay, so there's two, with this update, there's only two new series being added. So the first one is going to be right in the schedule, right above ordinances and resolutions. And the title is called Legislation, Regulations, Rules, Monitoring, and Tracking. The retention is 2 years after end of calendar year. And what it says here is records relating to the monitoring proposed federal, state, and local legislation, regulations, or rulemaking with potential impact on the agency and its clients. What it says here is includes but not limited to tracking, monitoring records documenting potential impacts to the agency, and then feedback/comments submitted by the agency. So I was a little bit confused by this, and we will definitely be writing them about this, because it makes a whole lot of sense for, what was it that you said, that like, it's for when people are doing proposals to the federal and state, like.
Oh, are you talking about, like, Department of Ecology, that comment? No?
Track it back.
3, 2, 1.
So it makes a lot of sense when we're talking about monitoring of proposed federal and state legislation that's coming out.
Oh, you're talking about like if council or an elected body makes comments on a legislation and they send it in.
Yes, and so that makes sense for me. But then they include here local legislation, which that's strange to me because it's specifically talking about like feedback and comments submitted by the agency or records documenting potential impacts to the agency. And that's just not clear because we both have been clerks, and if we're talking about legislation for local agencies, that's ordinances and resolutions by local agencies. And while some of them require public hearings and stuff, such as budget, or even certain like comp plan amendments and stuff.
Yeah, and that's tracked by minutes.
But that's tracked by minutes and also by the public hearing, Dan.
Yes.
So I want a little bit more clarification for this around resolutions and ordinances for, and then it says regulations and rules. So does that also mean like governance? Like, does that mean they're also talking any kind of official policies that are passed? So, which I think that would fall under different again too. I feel like this is meant that like the thought of this is meant to be tracking resolution and ordinance development. That is an old DAN that used to be around a few times ago and was taken out. And so I feel like this is kind of trying to like bring that back in, but spruce it up a little bit, but it's kind of not hitting the point. So we'll be reaching out about that one.
Yeah.
So the next new one is the one that I'm, so it brings about other changes that are coming up that we're both very excited about. So the new addition here is capital construction projects infrastructure. And the whole like specific reason why they're doing this is for like roads. I know a lot of people have been confused because previously there was only capital construction projects, routine buildings and facilities, and then capital construction projects significant. And whenever I would talk to people, they would literally be like, our roads are significant. Mm-hmm. What? And I'd have to be like, no, they're not talking about roads, because in the current retention schedule, under routine, it specifically says including roads. What page is that on? Oh, here we go. So on page 76 of the current schedule, it says routine buildings and facilities, including roads and other infrastructure. So in the new proposed schedule, they are taking out including roads and other infrastructure, and they are creating this new DAN to cover infrastructure. Now, it definitely covers roads, but Aimee and I, we work for all different types of clients in Washington, and I noticed that there is a lack of inclusion of the utility infrastructure. It does, so it says roads, bridges, pipelines, drains, power lines, pump stations, wells, reservoirs, park shelters, etc. That's funny, park shelters. That's silly. But so
it is
like
an infrastructure, though.
It is. It's so weird.
The large ones.
The large ones are fun, but I'm thinking about like those little like canopy. Anyway,
the little pop-up canopy.
Yeah, exactly. But I just feel like there should be something mentioning like water or wastewater, or even electricity. It does say power lines, which I guess power lines really covers electricity, because it's not gonna, infrastructure isn't gonna refer to like a dam, because a dam is a actual like significant asset. But the power lines and maybe even the substations, I wonder if it includes substations. Oh
yeah, that's a good point.
I feel like somewhere I read that substations were considered significant, though. I don't know. That's a good. We'll have to look into. Yeah. We'll have to look into that.
Look at that.
But I definitely said I think that they need to. I think that they need to remove the DAN that's UT 55-05E, or yeah, that's UT-55-05E. I think that's what it is on page 23 of the utility schedule, and that one's for. I think it's for like construction projects, utility infrastructure, and the retention of that is like 6 years after project complete, which is just. I guess that's in line with this, but it does not say and until no longer needed for agency business.
Yeah.
So, and that's a key phrase. So that's also one of the key things that they've changed in another capital construction DAN number is for under the capital construction projects, significant buildings and facilities. Currently right now, and that's on page 77 of the current schedule, currently right now, it says to retain for 6 years after completion and abandonment of the project, then transfer. They're modifying the wording to say that it and must be kept until no longer needed by the agency. So that means we can no longer, this is the only thing I don't like, this is the only change I don't like. It means we can no longer offload these records to the archives for retention, for permanent retention, but we have to keep them on site as long as we're using them, which every client that we have who deals with significant infrastructure, they reference those things. So yeah. Especially if it's something significant where they make changes to it constantly, or whatever. So I mean, it's good because you probably would be keeping a copy anyway on site. I just am sad that you don't have the option to send it there. Right. If you keep a copy yourself.
If you kept an electronic copy and then you could offload the physical copies to the state archives, now you're having to hold on to it.
And so maybe that's something we actually ask about as well, because I think that, especially what I think about is, I don't know any agents, we haven't worked for any agencies that have a truly proper archives room where records are temperature controlled, they're protected from potential water damage, all that stuff, like rodent damage. I mean, we see this kind of stuff all over the place, and the more we've been doing this, and the more, like, the older these records are getting, the more damage we're finding to them. And so, like, mold, water, rodent, all of it. And so it's like, that just brings to light the concern that we have regarding the condition that these records are stored in. And it is not reasonable to assume that municipalities can afford to do it at the level that the archives can. So it'd be really nice if there's an option where you digitize it, keep a digital copy, and then you give it to them for them to keep the permanent records safely. So we'll bring that up though. Okay, but I want to just, while we're there, I'm going to talk about the other big, my favorite thing, the other biggest change that they're making to these capital construction project stands. This is a complaint that I've had since the last one, since the comment period closed for the last one, because I was not notified about the last update until after it was closed. So in the capital construction project retention record series, so both the routine buildings and facilities and the significant, they're under the includes but not limited to. There's the top bullet and the bottom bullet. So this is page 76 and 77 of the current schedule. And the top bullet says project meeting minutes approval, program review, and or comments. And the bottom one says allotment and payment records and related documentation. I've had a problem with this from the very beginning, because why the hell do you need that for all time? And so I had the initial assumption that they would move those things under capital construction projects project administration process. However, then I remembered a discussion I had with Russell Wood where he mentioned that financial records should just fall under the financial transactions record series. So either financial transactions bond levy funded or financial transactions general. So it looks like that's what they're doing. They are now saying if it's a financial transaction, it should fall under a financial transaction Dan. If it's meeting minutes, it should fall under the meetings, staff, and internal committees. And that makes so much more sense. Also eliminates so much more paper, because I don't know if you guys have had to manage and deal with any records related to huge construction projects where they were meeting weekly to discuss their updates and stuff. We don't need to keep that forever and ever. It's usually just, oh, so-and-so is now doing this. And so, we don't need that.
And we literally just cleaned out boxes of monthly updates for a project.
Yes, we did.
Well, those were the 2.5 years.
Those are the reports. And see, the reports clearly have a Dan where it said we could get rid of them. But then the meeting notes doesn't. And that doesn't make any sense. So I think that really clarifies a lot for people, and to know that you can utilize those record series. I do think that the archives is going to need to be really clear about their intention here and about how they want people to be utilizing the other record series rather than this record series.
Yes.
So,
and for those that don't know who Russell Wood is,
yes, Russell Wood is the, oh gosh, what's his title? The records manager. I think he's the Washington State records manager or something like that. He's the one who approves, writes, I mean, everyone writes them, but he's the one who approves the retention schedules. So he's like the retention schedule guru in my mind. That's what we'll call him. That's his given title, Russell, okay? Okay, so those are the big, those are like, all of those are really big to me because it just creates a lot more clarity and means way less things for us to have to store and keep forever and ever and ever. So I like that. Also, like, I was having like heart palpitations thinking about having to scan in all the invoices received from one project back in the 70s where they're not, I know they're not needed anymore, right. You know, like, so it's like, unless they're needed for unless they're bond and levy funded, that's different. But like, so like imagining putting that in an electronic repository and how much space that would take up and how it would really impact the searchability of other records, because it would bring you way too many search results, and that's not what you're wanting. You're wanting like project notes and stuff. So anyway, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So kudos, Washington State
yes,
Archive.
Thank you for listening.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So let's see. Let's just go through. I'm going to go through the rest of them real quick because the rest of them are pretty basic. Okay. On page 10 of the current schedule, they talk about calendars for elected officials and agency heads, as well as employees other than elected officials and agency heads. Sorry. So they're changing this to say and head of agency, which I actually really like, because if you remember in the schedule previous to this one, there was one, I think it said for like department heads specifically. It was like elected officials and department heads, and so often the city clerk's correspondence fell under that, and it was city clerk gets correspondence for so many things. Everything. So I know there's a lot of people out there who still have files of like miscellaneous,
my favorite,
miscellaneous clerk correspondence for years and years and years. And so now, and I think that this probably continued to be a point of confusion for people, and they probably were continuing to retain records for like the clerk under this agency heads, but now it's specifically stating the head of the agency. So we are talking the general manager, the city administrator, the city manager, right? So that's good. And then, also for the calendars for just regular employees, they've now said that you can retain it until no longer needed. Currently right now it says until obsolete or superseded, but they're changing it until no longer needed, which is great because that means we don't have to log it, which we love. We don't have to log things. So so that's exciting. You can just have those deleted. Okay, so that's one. Let's see, what's the next one? Okay, page 9 of the current schedule. Oh, I really like this one too, actually. So this one is currently authorizations, certifications received by agency. And I was just telling Amy this story about, so they're changing it to say authorizations, certifications granted to agency. And the point that they're trying to make here is they're wanting to clarify that this is for like permits and things like that, things where the agency is being granted permission, not where they're being notified of them. So, because like previously, currently right now it says authorizations received by the agency, and they do specifically call this out, and they say they don't want ones like liquor and cannabis board licenses and that are issued, because if you're a clerk you get these notifications all the time, and people are keeping them, I think, under this authorizations, but it's actually not. So it's not those aren't granted to the agency. It is just a notification, really. And actually, in fact, when someone brought this up to me after this change for the liquor and cannabis notifications, I just did a quick search of liquor. I just did a quick search of liquor in the retention schedule, and it actually does reference the liquor and cannabis notifications. And it says to look at page 6, I think, which is 6. Yeah, which is provision of advice, assistance, or information. Because that's all that is. Those liquor, cannabis control board notifications are just notifications. So, so just make sure that you're retaining them under that, Dan. Okay, so the next one is page 21. Where's my tire? Okay, so this is for, this is super simple. This is the client customer feedback and complaints. They're just clarifying this is not in relation to complaints against law enforcement officers, which for this day and age, that's important. So we wanted to have that. And then and so I think this is the only other one that I actually like. Oh, I will say, so surplus, so currently there is, I don't know which page it's on, but there's a DAN for inventory surplus prosody. Prosody? That's a new word. Property. Now we're making up the words. Yeah, exactly. So it's for surplus property, and they're just removing it altogether because it is actually noted as falling under acquisition and disposal assets other than real property. So that's just simple. Okay, but the main last one is on page 95 of the current schedule. So this is maintenance, minor, non-regulated. And this is really great because previously I feel like the wording in this made it sound like it was very basic, like literally fixing, like tightening a screw on a shelf. And so I have had people like contradict me when I have applied this DAN to certain things that are minor maintenance. And they're including road repairs on this. So they've added that in this one, but my request to them that I'm going to send is going to be to include electrical work orders. So I feel like if we're because like it says includes but not limited to work orders, list logs, and reports, but then if you look on page 14 of the utility schedule, they have a work orders electric power systems, and I just feel like these should be combined so we can remove that one. One of the things that we've been noticing lately is there's a lot of duplicating
or contradicting, like which retention do you use?
Yeah,
do you use the utilities one or do you use the common core?
So for example, in the utility schedule, it says that electrical projects? Yeah, I think it's electrical project files should only be retained for 5 years. And it's not electrical. What is it? It's something else. It's
what's it?
For example, like the utility schedule item for electric power system projects, like that's only 5 years. However, electric power systems are significant. So significant is retained for 6 years, soon to be 6 years until no longer needed for agency business, and then transfer. But then in the utility schedule, it's just 5 years and then destroy, 5 years after project ends. Very contradictory. So like, I keep looking at that utility schedule because I feel like there's really a need to update that one. And there are a couple places where I was like gonna recommend that they take something out of the utility schedule and put it into the core. But then I was like, I don't know. I feel like they still want to have a separate utility schedule that is unique to them. It's just when it contradicts that it's not good.
Just need clarification.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so we will be writing something up and sending our recommendations in, but honestly, we're just one person, and frankly, we're not even government employees. We're two, what is it, private set, like, you know, like, so they might not listen to us. So we really encourage you to also send in your comments as well. I just am really excited though that there's going to be an update at all, and I really hope everyone takes the opportunity to provide their input. In the link that I provided with this post, it also has in there the link to the, like, it's like the request changes form or something, so you can just fill that out, send that in to them, get it in by March 20th, and cross your fingers.